Rahim. Thank you, Zulfikar Sahab, for inviting me and also to allow me to participate with such a distinguished panel that is here. Um, Let me start, first of all, by saying that when this government came in, we were staring at a very bleak economic situation, and the evidence of that is that we were forced to go to the IMF, a prescription that one only adopts in times of real stress. And resources had to be mobilized, tough decisions had to be taken. And what I want to do is quickly run down with you the state of the economy and the areas in which it was beginning to do well just before the coronavirus struck us. So first, the current account deficit was inherited at 20 billion. It was brought down to 3 billion US. The exchange rate was allowed to function on the lines of a more market-driven policy, and it was stable. The primary balance, and this is a very important point for us to know, that the primary balance, which is the difference between the government's earnings and its expenditure, was positive. That has hardly happened in Pakistan. So, and that's an indication of how aggressively the expenditures were managed. No supplementary grants were given. No borrowing was undertaken from the state bank. And it was maintained at a positive level, 194 billion. Then, in the last 5 years before this government, the growth rate of exports, and the world recognizes that no country has really developed without finding a way to sell their products to the outside world. The growth rate of exports in the last 5 years of the previous government was 0%. And that had to be remedied. And a lot of steps were undertaken to begin to do that, in addition to correcting an exchange rate that made the dollar and therefore imported items less expensive, flooding the local markets and creating huge imbalances in the external sector. So the other point on the revenue, revenue was mobilized. It wasn't at a level that one would say was meeting our ambitious targets, but it was mobilized at the rate of 17%. If you allow for the loss on the tariff income side because of policy-induced compression of imports, the rate was 27%. It's not an ordinary achievement. At the same time, refunds to the businesses were more than doubled. 250 billion were returned in refunds, which is more than double last year and perhaps the highest ever. FDI was increased to more than 137%, again, more than double last year. And we had good ratings and appreciation by the board of the IMF, by Moody's, by Bloomberg, which in December 2019 called the Pakistani stock market the best functioning stock market in the world. Now, of course, this was all happening while we were giving the subsidies to our export sector in the form of electricity pricing, gas pricing, subsidization of loans, and a no-tax regime. And at the same time, we said we will look after the vulnerable people of Pakistan, the forgotten people of Pakistan. And an extraordinary budgetary increase was made when the budget was for the social safety programs was almost doubled from 100 billion to 192 billion. And you can see, I think the world as a whole and fair-minded people think that program to be a fairly transparent and well-run program without considerations of politics or regionalism or any other consideration. If you are a Pakistani and you are poor up to a targeted point, then you are a good recipient for this facility. Now, of course, Corona changed all that, and it's too soon to say what the overall consequences of that will be, but some estimates run that the loss to the GDP could be as high as 3 trillion rupees. Similarly, the Federal Board of Revenue, even if it performed at the 17% growth, was hoping to get to 4.6 to 4.8 trillion. Now we will be, I think, struggling very hard to get to 3.9. So you could argue that maybe there was a loss of 600 up to 600 billion or so in the revenue. Similarly, exports were struck, remittances were struck, trade, large-scale manufacturing, industry in general, because of the lockdowns. So government had to respond. And I think, again, given the budgetary constraints that we are in, we tried to do the best, and we came with a budgetary stimulus package of about 1.2 trillion. और इसके दो कंपोनेंट थे. एक तो ये था कि जो हमारे लोग जो सबसे ज्यादा दिक्कत में हैं उनको जितना जल्द कैश पहुंचाया जाए, और 1,60,00,000 खानदानों को ये फैसिलिटी दी जा रही है, और 1 करोड़ से ज्यादा को दी जा चुकी है, जिसमें 12,000 रुपए दिए जा रहे हैं. अगर हर खानदान के 6 से 7 लोग हैं तो अंदाजन कोई 10 करोड़ लोगों को पाकिस्तान के ये कैश जो है, which is surpassing 150 and now 170 billion rupees is being given. और सारी दुनिया देख रही है कि हर कस्बे, हर गांव, हर शहर में लोगों को एक ईमानदारी से और अच्छे अंदाज में ये सपोर्ट दी जा रही है, और इसमें कोई कंसिडरेशन सियासी या मजहबी या इलाकाई नहीं लाई जा रही है. दूसरी जानिब, the other part of the package is कि हम किस अंदाज में एक बैलेंस स्ट्राइक करें between protecting the people and their health, but at the same time जो खतरा है कि अगर इकोनॉमी बहुत अरसे तक लॉकडाउन रही तो उसके जो माशी असरात हैं वो लोगों पे इतने ज्यादा होंगे, खुसूसी तौर पे कमजोर तबकों पे, कि वी विल हैव ए मेजर कैलेमिटी ऑन आवर हैंड्स. तो उस वजह से बिजनेसेस को भी मराहत दी गई, और उसमें पेरोल एक्सपेंसेस की जो स्कीम है दैट हैज बीन सब्सिडाइज्ड, प्रिंसिपल व्हिच बिकम्स ड्यू दैट इज बीइंग डेफर्ड फॉर अ ईयर. बिजली के बिल जो हैं 3 महीने के छोटे कमर्शियल एंटरप्राइजेस ऑल अक्रॉस द कंट्री उनके हुकूमत पे कर रही है. दीज आर नॉट डेफरल्स बट रादर पेमेंट्स बाय द गवर्नमेंट, एंड मेनी अदर विंडोज हैव बीन अडॉप्टेड, जिसमें 50 बिलियन एग्रीकल्चर को दिया जा रहा है, 50 बिलियन यूटिलिटी स्टोर्स को दिया जा रहा है ताकि मिडिल क्लास लोगों को भी फायदा हो, और सब्सिडीज वगैरह उनको दी जाएं. So this is, just the corona virus and and the government's attempt to react to it. Again, अब जब नए बजट की बात आती है तो पहली चीज तो ये है कि दिस कोरोना वायरस की जो एक सिचुएशन है उसके बारे में कोई भी सर्टेनिटी से नहीं कह सकता कि ये कितने अरसे चलेगी, इसकी शिद्दत किस तरह से होगी, एंड कितने लोग मुतासिर रहेंगे. So that is an uncertainty that is inherent in the nature of things. अब उसके बावजूद हमने 3 बड़े फैसले किए. एक तो ये कि even though revenue requirement is a consideration, और मैं आपको एक चीज सिर्फ समझा दूं रेवेन्यूज के बारे में और फेडरल गवर्नमेंट का उसमें कितना शेयर होता है. देखें, अगर 4,000 अरब रेज किए जाएं तो तकरीबन 60% जो है सूबों को, आज़ाद जम्मू और एंड कश्मीर और गिलगित बल्तिस्तान को दे दिए जाते हैं. तो अगर 4,000 रेज किया जाए तो उसमें से बमुश्किल 1,300 साढ़े 1,300 फेडरल गवर्नमेंट को मिलते हैं. आप दूसरे नॉन FBR रिलेटेड कोई इनकम ले लें तो let's just round it up कि ये 2000 अरब फेडरल गवर्नमेंट के होते हैं। अब आप अंदाजा करें कि 2000 बिलियन आपकी टोटल एनवेलप है और आपको 2700 बिलियन जो हैं वो फकत जो पास्ट के लोन्स हैं उनकी जो रीपेमेंट्स इस साल की हैं वो है। सो ऑन डे वन यू स्टार्ट विथ नेगेटिव 700 बिलियन और इसकी कोई तदारक नहीं है because we have constitutional arrangements that require you to pay this amount to the provincial governments, and it's for a good cause कि वहाँ पे education, health, drinking water, municipal services, police services, gender relations, mother and child benefits, and all those things are there. So if you want to influence the quality of life of our citizens, we have to dedicate those funds to the provinces. And then the challenge is to use them wisely and efficiently. लेकिन ये एक अंदाजा कर लें कि हमारी सिचुएशन जो है किस तरह से है। Now उसके बावजूद हमने कहा कि ये ऐसा मौका नहीं है to be heavy handed on the tax collection side, and therefore we have not introduced any new tax. At the same time we said कि we will give our people a lot of tax relief, you can call it. At the same time, we wanted to eliminate a lot of the taxes that add to the cost of doing business or that will now contribute towards the ease of doing business. तो मैं आपसे कुछ शेयर करना चाहता हूं कि वो हमने क्या किए। पहली बात कि on the tariff side, there are 1623 lines of raw material, which will add up to thousands of items of raw material. Just pay, all duties were eliminated and they were brought to zero. So, मैंने कहा कि अगर इसको जीरो नहीं करेंगे तो हैगलिंग चलती रहेगी और harassment की possibilities होंगी. So for thousands of raw material, we have brought the duties to zero. Similarly, for 200 type of items, which will run 200 lines, which will run to about 3,000 items, we have decreased the customs duty. And for 166 items, we have decreased the regulatory duty. So what I'm trying to say is that about 20 to 25% of all imports, उनकी ड्यूटी जो है या तो मुकम्मल खत्म कर दी गई है या काफी कम की गई है. This is on the duty side. Then 10 types of withholding taxes have been completely eliminated. Similarly, जो import के ऊपर withholding tax 5.5% की थी, उसको 1 या 2% कर दिया गया है. At the same time, we gave a historic, package for construction sector, जिसमें हमें IMF से काफी बहस करना पड़ा और काफी unse negotiate karna pada. We were able to get that. Now to reinforce that, we are giving a capital gains tax concession, jisko hum adha kar rahe hain. The idea is to motivate as much construction as possible. Similarly, on the expenditure side, what we are doing, we are really aggressively cutting the expenditure across the board. तो इसमें आपने देखा कि पाकिस्तान के अंदर ऐसी सिचुएशन में जबकि we have a difficult neighborhood and we have people wanting to create problem for us and we are pitted against formidable adversaries last year, and I should thank General Bajwa as well that we froze the military expenditures in nominal terms. That means कि real terms में we went for a decline. And this year also we had that major, very tough decision कि हमने कहा कि we will not increase it beyond the inflation. So in real terms, there's no increase in military expenditures. And in civilian expenditures, we have in fact cut it down by 20%. Or Pakistan mein, we must give a lot of credit to the Prime Minister for standing up and saying there will be no pay increases. These are dramatically tough decisions. And I think these have been taken because the times require those to be taken. And the areas where we have tried कि हम न काटें is one is the PSDP जो हमारा annual development program होता है. तो last year उसकी 500 plus उसमें खर्च हुए थे. तो this year we are keeping it at 650 and we are hoping they will tailor it in such a way that we go for labor intensive programs ताकि जो लोग इस वक्त हर्ट कर रहे हैं उनके लिए जॉब क्रिएशन हो. एंड जो सब्सिडीज हैं उसमें भी हमने कोई 100 बिलियन की कमी करने की कोशिश की है because we want to look at the whole regime of subsidies and try and improve the quality of subsidies and ensure that they are better targeted. And now that we have this highway of SSAS to try and utilize it more so than to give it in ad hoc terms where some of the benefits are siphoned away by middle people or not the intended targets. Now, I want to just conclude by saying that the coronavirus और इसकी जो implications हैं अभी तक clear नहीं हैं. अगर ये इसकी severity बढ़ती है, तो we would need to rethink about some of our, targets or budgetary allocations. Also, if you think कि जो हमारा revenue का target है, some people are saying कि it's a little ambitious. Yes. At the same time, we have a tax to GDP ratio of 11%. That also cannot go on because we are just unable to borrow more. और मैं borrowing के बारे में आपको ये बता दूं और इसके ऊपर हो सकता है मजीद questions हों, तो I will like to comment on this whole business of debt कि ये किसने लिया, क्यों लिया, कहाँ गया और उसकी इस वक्त क्या consequences हैं और how it is squeezing our room for maneuver. So we can have a frank and candid discussion without making it too partisan because I think Pakistan के कुछ failures हैं which run across governments, चाहे military हो, civilian हो, किसी की भी government हो. We have failed to integrate ourselves globally into the mainstream economy. We have failed to generate exports or foreign investment, irrespective of who is in power. We have failed to really tackle the issue of state-owned enterprises, except for a brief period under President Musharraf when some serious privatizations took place. And we have created very large structures of government, and they are siphoning away a lot of our national resources in the form of unproductive employment in these state enterprises and in main cadres of the government. So we have to think about these things and InshaAllah we can have a good discussion and I look forward to it. Thank you. First of all, let me apologize that I had at some points to leave this conversation because I was supposed to speak at an event where President Erdogan of Turkey was the chief guest. And since that was already committed before this, I could not get out of it. And it would have been disrespectful if I had not, gone and given a short speech. So
we understand
I missed out. I missed out on some of the comments of Miftah. While I was here, he was busy defending the previous government. And so when he did get to the budget, I was not here. But if he did give this suggestion, which was seconded by others, that there should be a shared understanding of the problems we face and a sort of a bipartisan consensus, and if not consensus, at least a meeting of the minds that we have long-standing issues. They relate to debt and its accumulation. They relate to the ever-growing salaries and pension bill of the provincial and national government. They relate to, human development and how to start taking better care of our neglected citizens. They relate to having a shared view on how to take some tough decisions on the role of the government, which is excessive. And so I think any movement in that direction, I would welcome it. At the same time, what's important is not what is said, but what is done. And I think it has been said many a time that actions speak louder than words. So Miftah Saab is a decent guy. He's a sweet guy. He has, I think, good ideas. But whoever matters in these leadership circles should, take up these points. And I think the country as a whole can only welcome that. Now, I want to also acknowledge some of the comments that I heard from Farooq Sahab, as well as just the concluding point of Ehsan Malik's. I think they have made good suggestions, and we would be looking at those carefully. I didn't hear bulk of what Dr. Shamshad Akhtar Sahiba said, but she's obviously a very knowledgeable and balanced person with a lot of experience. So I'll get separately in touch with her and try and find out what she has to say. And if there's anything of a guidance in that, we like to take that also from her. So,
sir, we'll also try to cover. Sir, we'll also try to cover what Dr. Shamshad Sahib has said in a follow-up question.
ओके तो यहाँ पर देखें जी जो पब्लिक फाइनेंस मैनेजमेंट एक्ट हुआ और इन सब का बुनियादी मकसद तो यही है ना कि एक्सपेंडिचर मैनेजमेंट हो, ट्रांसपेरेंसी हो और तरीकों को एफिशिएंट किया जाए. It's all a part of the drive for better institutional management, better assignment of roles. And you've seen also that we have granted autonomy to the central bank. Can it be said that, this level of autonomy was granted to the central bank before? No. We've also endured some criticism on the policy rate and so on, but we have resisted, trying to intervene in the workings of the Monetary Policy Committee and so on, because we do genuinely believe that these roles have to be preserved. अब एक्सपेंडिचर मैनेजमेंट का आप देखें कि क्या कभी ऐसे हुआ है कि एक्सपेंडिचर मैनेजमेंट नॉमिनल टर्म्स में गिराई गई हो या ये कि मिलिट्री के एक्सपेंडिचर्स को फ्रीज किया गया हो. So I think a lot of tough decisions have been made, and somebody pointed out to the fiscal deficit number being this percent or that percent. Look, it is a fact that the primary balance was in surplus. Is it not? Was it not in surplus? Has it happened before? तो कुछ चीजें हैं जो हमारे बस में हैं, हम उनको कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं. And we did, in spite of very, very tough odds. And that number at the end of the 9-month period was surplus because we could control our expenditures. Now, if we have to pay 2.7 trillion in interest, I mean, I can't do much about it. Now, if you say कि भाई आप उसकी बात भी नहीं करें because it will be seen as a criticism of the past, then that's not fair. Just like people are free and have opinions and can legitimately criticize us if we are borrowing for the wrong reasons, then that's fair criticism. We have to endure it, and we have to try and respond to it without losing our cool or without accusing the other person needlessly. लेकिन ये तो फैक्ट्स हैं ना. ये फैक्ट है कि हमारे पास अगर 2 बिलियन का एनवेलप है और उसमें 2.7 ट्रिलियन देने हैं, तो क्लियरली द फिस्कल डेफिसिट नंबर विल लुक अ सर्टेन, it won't be a very happy number. But what we need to judge in a fair way is whether we have been spending lavishly, whether we have not cut expenditures, including those of the president, the prime minister, and across the board. If somebody can point out कि जी फला area में बहुत आपने expenditures, then that would be legitimate. And I can go well, because I'm trying to strike a professional and bipartisan tone here. I know how to criticize, and I know how to respond to certain types of criticism. But this is a dialogue involving a lot of serious professionals from all around the world. And therefore, we want to maintain a level of decorum and professionalism and seriousness about the issues. So let me say, for example, SOE reform, it's an area we haven't done so well, and we need to get on with it. Privatization, we haven't done so well. I must say we were very close to 2 large privatizations of the electricity sector, but events intervened in the form of Corona. I don't want to blame everything on Corona. That's not the way I want to project it. But in fact, there were Chinese investors and Russian and others who were unable to participate and requested कि इसको पीछे किया जाए, तो किया गया, but that's an area we haven't done so well. Similarly, I think pension reform, it's a big time bomb that's beginning to tick away, and we need to start addressing it. I think we have set up a pension committee and headed by Mr. Wajid Rana, who is a former finance secretary, and we want to begin tackling this issue. Another area where we, I think, have not done so well, and we need to start doing well, and hopefully we will, is the regulatory regimes. Because the Competition Commission of Pakistan in particular, it has to be strengthened, it has to be empowered, it has to be motivated to try and see what are the imperfections in the markets, what are the non-competitive forces in the market, and how they are impacting upon prices and the welfare of the people. So ये areas हैं, और इसके अलावा भी हैं, we need to better coordinate between the center and the provinces, because for example the issue of inflation. अब मैं प्याज की कीमत बैठ के यहाँ पे इस्लामाबाद में या प्राइम मिनिस्टर can control up to a point, because it involves the machinery of provinces and districts. So there one doesn't want to escape any responsibility or accountability on that score, but it requires a multi-layered full government response to deal with certain type of issues, and I think we can and we should be doing a better job.
Thank you, Sheikh sir. Thank you. There's one more question to you, which has been touched upon by Hassan Saab also, and I thought it would be appropriate to ask. The medium-term budget strategy paper that was shared with in March, that also hinted towards that, and that has been a stated policy of the government also over a period of time, to move towards more direct taxes by enforcing real income-based taxation. But we see over a period that in respect of income-based taxation, none of the so-called presumptive, final, fixed, minimum, alternative tax regimes, these have not been done away with. Rather, with some changes, it doesn't seem that an effort is being made in the reduction of these taxes and moving towards real income-based taxes. So if you could just give some view about that also, that how you're looking at that, sir.
Yes, I think Zulfikar Saab, that's an excellent question, and this is a common kind of a criticism by well-informed people, also some traditional opponents, कि जी पाकिस्तान में indirect taxes ज़्यादा हैं और direct taxes कम हैं. Or clearly as the stage of development improves, वो balance जो है shift होता है towards income compared to indirect taxes. हमने कोशिश की last year कि जो number of taxpayers है उनकी तादाद जो register की जाए वो बढ़ाई जाए, और ये तकरीबन 18 लाख से 25 लाख की गई. Now, we are in a situation of a peculiar sort, and it doesn't seem right कि इस वक्त हम aggressively या heavy-handed तरीके से लोगों से इनकम टैक्स निकलवाने के पीछे पड़ जाएं। लेकिन एक डेटाबेस जो है वो बनाया गया है, और आई थिंक एफबीआर और नादरा की जो कोऑर्डिनेशन है उसको भी बेहतर किया गया है, एंड दैट्स द डायरेक्शन इन विच वी आर हेडेड। और डॉक्टर इशरत को भी ये जिम्मेदारी दी गई है कि एफबीआर के अंदर मजीद जो है रिफॉर्म्स हों, और वर्ल्ड बैंक के साथ एक ऑटोमेशन का भी प्रोजेक्ट शुरू किया गया है जिसमें ज़्यादा अच्छे अंदाज में प्रोग्रेस होगी। सो yes, you are right, and I think that's an area we need to begin doing more. uh, I don't think this is exactly the right time, but 3 से 6 महीने के बाद we can begin, I think, to give it the kind of bite that this requires, and have a much clearer strategy, because it's not just a question of bite alone, it's a question of designing the right incentives to motivate people. अब इसमें हमने ये किया है कि जैसे पॉइंट ऑफ सेल के जो यूनिट्स हैं, जो बड़े शॉप्स हैं, ट्रेडिंग आउटपोस्ट हैं, वो अगर फिर एफबीआर के साथ अपने आप को कनेक्ट कर दें, द पॉइंट ऑफ सेल, if it is directly connected to the FBR with FBR electronically, we have just said that their sales tax will be in fact reduced. पहले वो 17% की बजाय 14% था, अब हमने उसको मजीद गिराया है, 12% किया है, ताकि उनको इंसेंटिव हो आने के लिए सिस्टम में। और इसी तरह की और भी चीजें हैं जो मैं बोर नहीं करना चाहता हूं आपकी ऑडियंस को बाय गोइंग इनटू सच डिटेल। जी देखिए, दिस वाज एन एक्सीलेंट discussion. There was the usual political nitpicking by one or the other. There were theoretical points, not very helpful in practical decision making. And there was some repetition of the obvious, which in some ways is a good thing. But much more importantly, I learned a lot. I think there was sober reflection. There was a generation of excellent suggestions, and some, legitimate criticism as well. So I want to thank my distinguished colleagues on the panel for that. We do have a lot of problems, and I think the challenge is how to keep navigating through that. And nothing is straightforward. One is trying to balance. In a noisy democracy, the room for maneuver is very limited. And if it was just well-intentioned people in a framework of making good points, that would be, one could cope with it more easily. But there are vested interests, there are strong forces that don't want one or the other group to succeed. And that's all a fact of life. तो मेरे ख्याल में हम क्यों ये कहते हैं कि हमें दिक्कत में हुकूमत मिली, इसलिए कि एक्सचेंज रिजर्व्स जो है बिल्कुल ख़त्म हो चुके थे, इसलिए कि बहुत डॉलर्स जो हैं फूंके गए in order to preserve a fantasy of an exchange rate. These were the dollars of the people of Pakistan. And it's okay to talk about 4% growth rate versus 3% growth rate. But the important thing is not just the growth rate, but what is the source of that growth rate? What is the quality of that growth rate? What are the components of that growth rate? It's not, I don't think it's a sign to boast about 4% growth rate when export growth rate for the entire tenure has been 0%. people can borrow and spend, and that also contributes towards the growth rate. So as we move forward, I would make a humble request, and in the public space, I would say, let us, curb our cynicism. Let us try and reduce our passion for excessive partisanship. And let us continue to, recognize each other's constraints and the requirements of the moment. So I want to, express humility. I want to say that, we do face a difficult situation, but inshallah, we will try our best. I do, मैं क्या कह सकता हूँ कि मुझे अल्लाह ताला ने ये मौका दिया कि 20 मुल्कों में काम किया और this is my sixth chief executive I'm working with. And he in some ways is unique in Pakistani history because he really wants to work to get things done. He has no family or friends that he wants to promote. He's not trying to build an empire. He's not trying to, develop the political careers of his children. And in that way, he is unique. And I think it's very important, and this is something that motivates me, that we should try and work as hard as possible so that this country can fulfill its destiny. And, I want to thank you, Asfar Ehsan Sahab, and all the rest, and Zulfikar Sahab, Uram Sahab. And inshallah, we should continue to have these kind of dialogues. And I'm once again grateful to my panelists for their, considered opinions. I've learned a lot. Thank you very much.